Hey everyone, I'm Amy Kuschel, and today I'm here with Nicole Bianchi.
Hi.
Hi, and we have known each other for many years, and we are both in sort of weaving wellness into our own personal lives, and we thought it would be really fun to talk to you about the beauty of slowing down from food to fashion. So, first and foremost, I think it would be really interesting to hear your story, Nicole, where you
Yes.
talk a little bit about that moment when it became really critical to you to slow down in your own life. So,
Yes.
as a certified nutritionist, you weren't always a nutritionist,
No.
so tell me sort of how it started for you.
Right. Well, in my nutrition practice now, where I work in an integrated medical clinic with some doctors and other practitioners, I feel like a common theme for us is telling our clients and patients to slow down, really get still, get quiet. And what that means is something we're going to talk about in this video today. But my own personal story is a long, bumpy, kind of frenetic, hurried, and worried story. And I hit a breaking point after I had my second daughter, who's about to be 9 in September.
Wow,
and so it's
yeah.
been a number of years since I have kind of was at the bottom of my overwhelm. It was a breaking point for me. I was raising a toddler and had a newborn baby, and I was too busy, too crazed all the time, very hectic lifestyle. And I will never forget, I was trying to make a grilled cheese sandwich for my toddler, and I had baby in arms, and things were going wrong in the house, and it was a crazy time, and it was just a breakdown moment. And I had been going to acupuncture to try and get some energy because I felt my energy supply just waning. And it was my acupuncturist who said, "You need to eat better. You really need better foods. You need better fuel." And I thought to myself, what does that even mean? You know, I'm trying to eat, or I'm trying to feed my toddler and my newborn well, but I'm eating out of a box. I'm ripping open a bar in the car. You know, I'm eating nuts and seeds maybe, but I'm going fast. I'm never sitting down for a proper meal. And so when he said that to me, I did have an epiphany, but the next steps are pretty rocky and bumpy as well. I went to the market the next day. I had stars in my eyes about how I could make this beautiful stew for my family and how everyone was going to love it, and it was going to be my Martha Stewart moment. And the next day I was, from market to putting the stew on the table was about 7 to 8 hours, because it was just such a big undertaking for someone who wasn't a great cook, wasn't very practiced, didn't have a lot of bandwidth. And so it felt like it was more stressful than it was healing or nourishing for me. And so my next appointment with him was the following week, and he said, "How did it go? You made the stew." And I just started crying. And I said, it took me almost 8 hours and no one even liked it. And he said, "But you know what? You fed your family." So it was another aha. It was me putting the puzzle pieces together to say, I can do this. It doesn't have to be an 8-hour stew. I could actually simplify this a lot more. But what that's going to require is for me to slow down and simplify my life. I'm going to need to make space for this. I'm going to have to make space to feed myself
To make it a priority.
It's all about priorities. And it did come to a head when my younger daughter was 8 months old. I got shingles. So then that's a very serious, painful condition. And so I was, again, having to heal out of that. I knew the foods needed to be different than the packaged foods I was ripping open and eating on the playground or in the car. But I also knew that it wasn't just what the foods were, it was how I was eating and when I was eating that was super critical. And if I could take care of myself, I could take care of my family better. Really, it was about putting the oxygen mask on first versus trying to help everyone else around me. And that's the segue into learning about nutrition science. And then getting into the practice and helping other new moms, but people in all stages of life.
So you were a graphic designer back then?
I was.
Like when we first met, were you a graphic designer? Okay.
Yes. I was an
I
art
designed Nicole's wedding gown. That's how we
15
met.
years ago. Yes.
So, okay, so you were a graphic designer, and then
Mhm.
so this kind of shifted your career path and everything.
Complete turn into something different,
Mhm.
but very meaningful, and also
Mhm.
something I was applying to my own life.
Mhm.
And it felt very impactful.
Mhm.
It felt very impactful to help people, other people, the way that I was trying to help myself. I was really my own first nutrition client.
Sure.
I was the experiment.
Mhm. Mhm.
And kitchen testing all sorts of ideas.
Oh, wow.
And it was a lot of work. But I wanted to cut through that for people so that they could get me as a guide
Mhm.
versus just trying to figure it out on
It's
their
so
own.
overwhelming. I
It's
have my own
very
health story that I've shared with you,
Right.
but it's probably too much for, for this moment here. But similarly, I waited till I was sort of in crisis to really address how I was eating, because I thought I was eating well
Right.
at the time. And but the typical American diet really isn't always the best for everyone. So I had my own emergency, which kind of led me down a path of wellness and doing yoga and meditation and finding these ways of just calming down, so that my body could heal. And it required me to change, my diet, change what I was eating, and also just to kind of re-examine how quickly I was moving through life and how busy I was, and that sort of over glorification of busy, as a fashion designer and just someone who worked in New York, the beginning of my career. My self-worth was really how much I got done in a day.
Right.
How productive am I? And that's really where I would find guilt in taking a nap or, taking time for myself. And so it is a long process of sort of accepting that things need to change. So I can totally appreciate your story.
Right.
And from a fashion perspective, with what brought me into wellness, sort of for the wardrobe, was really thinking about, my morning has become quite easy. I start with yoga and meditation, and I make a big breakfast and whatnot. But I also, when I get to the point where I'm at the closet, I have very few things in my closet, and I have those go-to pieces.
Right.
And what I recognized working with brides all these years is so many women would ask me, "Oh, did you make this?" And at the time we didn't always have a ready-wear collection. I would say, "Oh no, I don't design my own clothes." But the message I was getting consistently was this chaos in their closets and how overwhelmed women are about what to wear. And so I felt that kind of merging that wellness message with slowing down in your wardrobe and, learning so much about fashion being a top polluter, and how fashion really, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of messages out there to just buy and to consume, and even food, there's just so much that we're being told that we need, or that this is the right choice, or that's the right choice. And it can be really overwhelming for people. And so I felt that if I could be sort of an advocate for wellness in your wardrobe and for what that might look like, that it could help people with that chaos in the closets, and help them figure out how to navigate, how to have a closet full of things that are actually useful, that you're actually wearing, and those go-to pieces.
Well, I'm asking my clients all the time to make breakfast, to sit down for breakfast. How many times have I heard that there's just no time between getting ready for work, getting kids ready for school and camps, all the things that everyone needs to do in the morning. But if they could walk into their closets and not have to spend time changing, deciding,
rethinking,
stressed,
things don't match,
second guessing, which I know I did that so much until I started to understand that the way we do one thing is really the way we do everything, right? So if we can go into a closet or into a kitchen with ease, I mean, this is what we endeavor to do, and we want to take baby steps to get there. But what a wonderful proposition for the morning. And we have to start somewhere with food, and breakfast is always a wonderful place to start. So if having a simplified wardrobe can allow time for this other self-care, I'm a huge fan of that.
So mornings are really hard to slow down.
Yes. And you have a routine in the morning, right?
I do. And I think that that's probably the number one thing that sets the pace for my day.
Right.
And I sometimes the days do carry you away, but at least I feel that if I've taken that time in the morning.
Right.
So for me, I try to go to bed at a reasonable hour so I can get up a little early and do yoga, because the only way I'm going to do it is if I do it at home before I leave the house. That's just my reality. So I do yoga. I make myself breakfast, and the kids, depending, now we're on summer vacation, but they're at different stages now. I have a high schooler and I have one who's out of school, but making them breakfast too, so that they're sitting and eating breakfast before they leave the house. I think it's really key.
Right.
And so then by the time I'm getting ready, I've spent a lot of time relaxing and eating. And then at that moment where it's time to take the shower and get all dolled up, which I love to do, I want the clothing part of it to be seamless, because now I've got maybe, half hour to get out the door.
Right.
And, but I do know, having babies at home, little kids at home, busy lives, it's really easy to just wake up and want to fly out the door. And I think, but taking that time, I recognize that I see it in employees and different people I work with and friends and whatnot. The people who give that time in the morning, I think it really does show.
Yes.
And so talk to me a little bit about your clients and what they're coming to you for.
Right.
In terms of slowing down and what you're seeing.
Well, that becomes a common topic with all of our processes, whether someone's coming to me and they're very, very sick, or they'd like to lose weight, or they have other issues that they'd like to address. There is rarely a time when slowing down doesn't play a role. And this whole idea of the beginning of the day being a place not only for slowing down and setting the tone, but then also for nutrition. So a lot of times we're saving all of our nutrition for dinner, right? That's the time that we are cooking potentially for family, sitting down, and maybe we're just ripping open a bar or opening a cereal box for breakfast. And so we want to take breakfast back. I say to my clients a lot, I ask them to eat vegetables at breakfast. That's very alien to a lot of people who are used to eating cold cereal for breakfast, right? But why does this matter? Why does setting the tone for your day matter? Well, if you're constantly hurrying and worrying and going Mach 10 with your hair on fire, physiologically what's happening is actually you're going very fast as well. So what is that doing? It's actually speeding up the aging process.
Ooh.
Conversely, it's slowing down and suppressing metabolism.
Okay.
So two things we don't really want to happen. The other side of that story, though, is that if we slow down, we make time in the morning, that sets the tone for how we go on with our day. I know if I'm having a very busy day, if I know that my day is quite full, because I still run into that trap of overextending.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to do.
Yes, life can be very full, and some days are fuller than others. And if I know I have a very full day ahead, I will intentionally downshift and say I have to move slowly through the morning so that I know I'm going to get to this. I'm going to get to the same place in the same time if I had gone really busy and done it very quickly and been frenetic. But I know that it's going to take less energy than if I was crazy, hair on fire. And so the flip side is that if we can slow down and ease in, we can simplify, we actually slow aging, and we also increase our metabolic fire. We actually can let our metabolism have center stage, and it can really do its good work. And that's what we want to happen. So we see that the way that our lifestyle reflects what's happening to ourselves physiologically is very similar to the way that I think about the environment. What's good for Mother Nature, what's good for the planet is good for our ecology as well. And so as you and I have started talking about how do these two topics really go together, well, if it's not good for the planet, it's probably not good for our bodies. And conversely, if it's bad for the planet, it's not good for our bodies. So those two ecosystems are intimately connected. And as we think about some of the stresses on the environment, certainly fast food, not just a fast food restaurant, but the other things that we've been talking about, and also fast fashion, take their toll.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that was interesting when you were saying about, nature, Mother Nature, because when we're wearing natural fabrics, when we're wearing cotton and linen and things that are plant-based, are much better for us, our bodies, and just the way that they're produced from seed to fabric is a much healthier path than when we're wearing synthetics. It's probably similar to like a packaged food. The more processed it is, the worse it is for us and for the environment. So when you have clothing that's made out of fossil fuels, like your polyesters and your nylons and all the sort of athletic fabrics, and those are very harsh to cultivate, and then when we wear them, they're not as comfortable in a lot of ways. You're going to sweat. Things are just going to behave differently on your body. And then from there, when you're done with it, it does not biodegrade.
Right.
And a lot of the fast fashion out there is really stressful on the planet. So what's happening is we're buying really inexpensive clothes, and then, they're really not favorite pieces. So we end up purging our closets a lot. And so in San Francisco alone, we are sending 75 pounds of clothing to landfill every minute. So if you think about the whole country, the whole world, this is a real burden for us. And whereas, something that's made out of a natural fabric, if that isn't being worn, that's actually going to break down and biodegrade more naturally, where something synthetic is going to be here for hundreds of years. And so the beauty, going back to like beauty, I really think there is a lot of synergy there with your clothes and with natural fabrics and with what you're eating. And you were talking a little bit about, the more you can make something. And when we talked the other day, you actually talked about something to the effect of when you're handling the food.
Yes.
What did you say about that?
There's such a magic in cooking and preparing food. And that does help us digest. So I do love a lot of the meal delivery programs and the Green Chef and the Blue Plate and things like that, where you can get food delivered to your home and then you can actually prepare it. There's different versions of that and different levels of that. There's nothing better than going to a farmer's market and sourcing the food, carrying the food into your house, and then peeling the potato and mincing the garlic yourself. This helps with digestion. So when people think about cooking, most of the time they're thinking about how arduous it is, how it's a chore at the end of the day. Or we think about cooking in terms of Top Chef and Chef's Table and all this artistic genius that goes into it. So it's, on one side of the coin, we don't want to access it. We don't want to do it because it's drudgery. And on the other end,
it's not accessible.
It's not accessible, and it's not easy, and it's not joyful. It looks difficult, right? But I think that if we can think about cooking as a creative endeavor, it is also physiologically really impactful. I talk to a lot of my clients who suffer from anxiety and depression, and remembering that anxiety and worry and hurrying, they exist kind of in the same spectrum and genre. But to try to be worried when you're mincing garlic, it's hard because you're focused, right? It's almost like painting or doing sculpture or doing a pottery project. You're really focused on this creative endeavor that you're doing. And with cooking, you get the twofer, because not only are you doing the creativity and having the accomplishment and the experience of that, but then you get to nourish your body with what you made through eating and digesting, because your body is ready for that. So it's a pretty magical process.
So for people who can't go to the farmer's market, so maybe it's just, not enough time, or there isn't a really good one in your neighborhood or whatnot. Or maybe there's even not a lot of time to grocery shop.
Right.
So what do you think of some of these meal plans? The getting
grocery
the foods,
delivery or the meal kits.
Yeah.
The kits.
What do you, is that a good cheat, or is that?
I think that they are, some are better than others, surely. Some are going to have better ingredients, fresher ingredients, more whole foods ingredients. than others, maybe better fats or higher end ingredients, organic versus conventional. There's a lot of things to consider. In my mind, anything is a gateway to the next step, right? So if you've never cooked a meal once in your life, or out of the 21 meals that you eat during a given week on average, you never cook, then that might be a nice bridge. It might be a nice stepping stone. You know, we're not going to talk about, okay, now I don't cook any meals. I'm always doing takeout or cold cereal and ripping open an energy bar. And then tomorrow I'm going to spend 5 hours in the kitchen preparing all my meals for that day and then repeat that the next day. It's just not realistic. It's what I found out when I was that new mom of a toddler and a baby, and I spent 8 hours making the stew.
Right,
It's not sustainable. So just the knowing that that cooking process is healthy for you and important and healthy for your psychology, for your biology, for everything is a good first step. And then if you find a meal kit that you like and you want to use that as maybe a gateway to doing a little bit more from scratch type recipes, then I'm all for it. Anything that will get people into the kitchen and excited about getting into the kitchen is a win.
So, getting into the kitchen, I think one of the tools that I really rely on is my grocery list.
Yes.
So I have a list that's evolved over the years.
Right.
And I keep it on my phone. And, you know, each week, whether Bill's shopping or I'm shopping, we're kind of working off that list and just kind of adding and subtracting seasonally and whatnot. So do you help your clients grocery shop or how does that work?
Yes, I definitely give guidance on grocery shopping because that's the first step, right? And so when we're talking about simplifying, we're also talking about making time for some of these things. A lot of times I'm hoping that we can puzzle piece together a shopping list rather than trying to do it all at one place every week. So, and making it a creative process as well. And I could guide people on what has worked for me and what has worked for other clients. And one of the main things is let's figure out a tailored program that's going to work for you. So maybe you're going to be hitting the grocery store. Maybe it's the farmer's market. Wonderful. If not, then it could be a good grocery store in your neighborhood on a Sunday. And then finding a good market near your workplace that you can refresh on Wednesday.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
Or another day of the week. And so that we're not thinking about meal planning for 7 days. That seems overwhelming to me. And I do this for work. Thinking about 2 to 3 day chunks.
Okay.
And then maybe filling in some gaps with grocery delivery or the meal kits that we talked about before. I have a great tool on my website. It's a resource that I offer my clients where I give a typical grocery list. It really outlines the areas of the store that you might be going to visit. And so the way that I have most people approach that grocery list is that you'll go through it a one time, you know, looking through and maybe circle the things you know you like that you already buy, because on a healthy kitchen grocery list there's likely going to be some things that you already pick up regularly. So go ahead and circle those things and then it's totally realistic that you might go through and cross out things that you know that you don't like or that your family doesn't like, because the last thing you want is to go to the grocery store, buy all of these ingredients and then they all end up in the compost bin. That's pretty deflating and depleting as well. So we've got the things that you like that you already buy, the things that you don't like, that your family doesn't prefer, you're going to go ahead and cross those out. And then I like people to go through and kind of highlight things they've never cooked with or that they've never had. And each week, or maybe it's each month even, try a couple
Adding
new ingredients and you can center a recipe around that new ingredient and then the things that you always pick up. And that's a simple kind of way to expand your palette and expand your meal planning. And maybe every quarter or every season bring in a new meal. Not every week, not every month even. That's a lot. And so I encourage people, get a signature dish, get one thing. That's the first step. It's just one thing that you know how to make with ease because it's joyful, when it's easy
And something the family wants to
and you
eat.
know how to do it, and it's a crowd pleaser, generally speaking. Although when people are feeding kids, kids are notorious for saying, I don't like it. And I often say, you don't have to like it for it to be good for you and nourishing. So that's, another conversation. But getting a signature dish is an easy way to feel confident and to keep being creative in the kitchen. And so speaking of, I think about the way that this is very similar to the closet
Well,
too,
I was thinking
right?
like signature
look.
style, a signature look. And I think when people are overwhelmed with their closets, the first thing I would say is take a look. You talk about the audit. How many times are you eating at home or whatnot? Well, there's a closet audit you can do. And people, a lot of people will employ a stylist or someone that will help them get through their closet. And I think that's really, really beneficial. But not everyone can afford that. Not everyone is ready for that. I think one of the best things you can do is look at your closet and look for the pieces you wear the most. So what I find is I tend to have a signature style. These are the pieces I like to wear. These are the things that everything, plays nicely together. So the shirts match the pants and the skirts, and the dresses are easy to wear with the cardigans and whatnot. But if you start with looking at the closet and saying, which are the pieces maybe that you wear at least 30 times? So 30 wears is something that's sort of, I think maybe it was Elizabeth Klein or Greta Egan, one of those authors about more sustainable style. In their books, I think they coined that 30 wears idea. And it's really wearing clothes more often. So getting more use out of your clothes. So the pieces you're wearing the most are clearly, hopefully, your favorites. And if they're not, then that's another thing to consider. But so you've got these favorite pieces, and what do they have in common? And then you can start to explore your own style. What is my sense of style? Well, look at this. I'm noticing a lot of navy or lace, certain things that you feel really good in. Is it a poplin shirt? Is it really classic? Is it more feminine? Is it soft and flowy? And really thinking about a certain look and not feeling like you need to be so impulsive about what you buy. And that noise we talked a little bit about earlier. So there are all of these big brands that know how to market to you, that know what is going to get you to impulsively buy something. There's a lot of money spent on analyzing the data of how people shop and what their buying patterns are. And so there's a lot of trickery that can go into that, trying to convince you that you need a lot of things, that you constantly need new clothes. And so I feel that by slowing down and sort of, okay, I do have these pieces that I really love. For now, I'm just going to take a pause and I'm going to be wearing those pieces and then starting to think about what I want to add from there. And the favorites are really the key way to shop. So I have my little trick of like the 5 things that I look for. And number 1 is style. I have to love it. But I will no longer just buy something because I like the style of it. So there has to be more to it than that. So for me, I will from there think about quality. How well is it made? If it's well made, I'm going to wear it more often. If it costs more, I'm going to take my time thinking about buying it, and that's okay. If it's really inexpensive, conversely, who made it and how was it made this cheaply? So those are questions that I'm going to ask. And when I think about buying something more expensive, the cost per wear is going to come in. So if it's highly versatile and useful, then I don't mind spending more for it. If it's something I can't imagine it going with other things in my closet, if I really don't have any idea what I'm going to wear it with, I'm not going to buy it. So I have to think of it as useful. So quality, usefulness, style for sure, and then natural fibers. So I'm thinking a little bit about how that's going to feel on me, where the fabric came from, and what's going to happen to it when I'm done with it. So I have this nice little list that I like to go back to, and I can share that too. So
good.
Can we, at the end of the video, we'll put in a link for your grocery list.
Absolutely.
And for my sort of like the high fives of what I look for before adding anything into my wardrobe. And again, that slowing down and having pieces that make you feel beautiful, and just focusing on that, and not just grabbing everything that's colorful and happy and bright, and just any opportunity to buy something. Really just dialing that back and slowing down.
Right.
At first it feels a little bit awkward because we're not used to it, but over time it starts to feel really empowering to have fewer things, and to just to simplify, and to go to that closet in the morning, and there's just things that I love that all really work well together. I don't have to overthink it. And if the pieces are versatile, if I'm wearing something twice in 1 week, I can wear it in a very different way.
Right.
So there are all these tricks, and I think the main thing really is making that commitment to getting comfortable in your own style, and to start paying more attention to what makes you feel good when you're wearing it.
And that feels like another area that needs stillness and quietness to tap into that inner wisdom. But I'm that girl too who will save my most special pieces, save them, and then never wear them, or my most favorite thing. So I have to be reminded to wear it and use it and get to that hashtag 30 wears. When you said that put a light bulb off in my head. I'm thinking, gosh, some of the things that are hanging in my closet might get 2 wears.
Wow.
And to use them.
And the fast fashion average is less than 5 wears.
Right.
And it's really easy if you buy something that, there's different levels of it. So there's the workhorse pieces that you might wear once a week.
Right.
And so you're going to have already worn it 50 times in a year. A favorite pair of jeans, or a really great denim skirt, a go-to really simple dress. And if you stick with simple and classic, but still beautifully made and interesting, it doesn't have to be boring.
Right.
Those pieces you'll get to 150 wears before you're done with them. But when you're thinking special occasions, that's where it gets tricky.
Right.
Where it's I'll have brides come into the shop, for their wedding, and they're looking for something maybe for the rehearsal dinner, or the mother's looking for something for the bridal brunch or whatnot. And I really try to steer them to pieces when they're between 2 looks that they really like. I try to steer them towards the piece that they're going to wear again.
Right.
Which piece will you wear more often? And we've really moved our brand away from those sort of fancier dresses that are beautiful, but you really can't get more than 6 wears out of them.
Yes.
So I think that's a great opportunity for the equivalent of these meal services and whatnot, is maybe a Rent the Runway.
Right.
For like a special occasion dress. For wardrobing, I'm not quite as excited about those services because of all the shipping back and forth, and they're going to dry clean every single time, and that's really exhausting for the environment as well. So so wearing things longer and investing in quality and pieces that you really think are beautiful. And you'd be surprised, it doesn't need to be incredibly neutral, it can be something very fun.
Right.
It just has to be something that you really love. And I think
enjoy.
that is one of the biggest benefits of taking your time and slowing down. You're investing in better things that you're more excited about.
It's so similar with the investment in good food. We ask a lot, just as a collective culture, why is good, seasonal, organic, unrefined local food so expensive? And we should be asking that counter question, which is, why is the bad food so cheap?
And would you rather pay now at the grocery store, or would you rather pay the pharmacist?
It's an investment in your health and your worth.
For sure.
But it's one worth making.
Yeah, I think so. Well, thanks. That was really fun for me. I got to learn a few things.
Thank you.
And so we'll go ahead and we'll put some resources on the website. And you can email us. We'll put all of the details below the video here, so you can find ways to contact Nicole and I. Her website, our email addresses. I can share that. And you can subscribe to this channel if you want to watch more things like this. You can also follow us on social media.
Yes.
So you're
Nicole
Bianchi?
_Bianchi.
Okay,
Yes.
on like Instagram.
Instagram. Yes.
Okay. And so we'll put all of our contact information, and please, feel free to ask us questions and get in touch with us. And I hope this was helpful. I think it was kind of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.